Alright, hey there guys, Panda here, and I have another video. This is going to be another self-commentary of my gameplay. Now I'm playing against SlayerSMin, the blue Zerg who is on Team Slayers. He's recently come back into relevancy. He's been doing really good at a lot of online cups. I hit him on ladder, and yeah, so this is going to be how to deal with really fast Broodlords with mech. Obviously, Cloud Kingdom, pretty good map to mech on. You have, despite the fact that there are a lot of opportunities for counterattacks, it makes for a relatively easy third, and once you get like 150, 160 supply, you can go and take this fourth base. So I feel like after this game I've just felt like a complete asshole because I thought he was trolling me. There are a lot, for the record, in my defense, there are a lot of players in Grandmaster ladder where they have, there's an OGS 4GG, there's a Boxer, there is a Supernova, and there's a Nada, I think, that are all with the appropriate clan names, and they're not actually that person. Some of them, I know the guy who was faking Boxer map hacked, so I didn't think this was actually SlayerSMin. And then after the game, I just went on TL to see if anything happened, what tournaments were on and stuff, and I saw that he was streaming, and I felt like a complete and utter asshole because it was actually SlayerSMin. So I talked to him afterwards and I apologized. I hope he doesn't hate me, but yeah. So this is going to be a TVZ. It's actually a pretty long match. I go into Raven Tech, and this is actually a build that I've been doing. I recently did a little how-to on it, so I won't touch as much on that. My opponent is actually going to be going for no gas expansion. He has, well, obviously Hatch First is really common, but he's actually going to go up to 4 or 6 queens, and I forget how he transitions out of it from there. So we will see. Checking to see and take a look at the APM too. Yeah. So I felt really bad saying that he wasn't SlayerSMin. But in the meantime, I've been digging 3cc openings, especially on this map, recently against Zerg. You can still do it. Yesterday I casted the finals between, beforehand it was a best of 3 between Byun and Revival, and then the finals were actually Byun versus Hyun. So I got it really a cool look at how he really looked at the matchup. He stated himself that he doesn't think, he thinks that Zerg is by far his weakest matchup, and he's really not confident playing it. But I don't know. He showcased a really cool 3cc into relatively fast reactor Hellions after a 14 command center. So I definitely will give it a shot when I have a place that I can actually ladder again. But promised you guys more videos, so here they are. So he's actually getting a really fast spine crawler, not drone scouting. This is something that's very common right now. A lot of Terrans, especially Korean Terrans, are going and just proxy 11-11 racks, especially on maps like this where it's 2-player. You obviously know where your opponent's going to spawn and such, but not me. Opening pretty standard. I have 2 Marines set up here. Unfortunately, my SCV does die. It's regrettable, but hey, bad things happen sometimes. And in the meantime, we do see that Min is getting 2 gas. This is actually pretty early timing. You generally don't see gas for another 30 seconds or so at around 43, 44 supply, but stranger things have happened. And he's actually going up to 4 queens right now. Does he get another one? No queen in the production tab. I'd imagine a fast third is going to come down. Again, it's been quite a while since I played this match, so I forget how he played. But my command center is just about finishing up, and I do have a starport on the way. Here come the Marauders too. I'm not rallying them down into this area right here because if you take a look at his vision, he can actually see my units, and it's not uncommon for him to scoot the OV a little bit over to the left to get a further scout off. I really didn't want him to see my third timing, so I killed the Zergling that was there. And let's see what else. Here's my Viking. Meanwhile, my opponent has just started Zergling speed, and finally getting creeps started. So he's actually going to have a couple tumors in place by the time my timing hits, and hopefully I can supply block him with this. I don't think I will be able to, but he's not producing another Overlord right now. Meanwhile, look at the drone count. I've been, I think I cut 1 or 2 SCVs generally when I do this timing, but I have an expansion, so I can definitely keep up on that. But he's actually double my supply in workers, which means that this should actually work pretty well. I'm rallying the Marauders over outside of the range of that Overlord. There's really, like, on a map like this where you have such a tight choke and your Overlord can obviously see your forces as you're moving out, you can either kill the Overlord and then move out, or kill the Overlord while, like, maneuvering your forces out so that you don't delay your push. That's what I opted to do this time. 10 more drones on the way. He's actually going to go up to 60. So, really, really heavy. But if we take a look at the army supply, like, okay. He didn't really think that this was coming. He prepared with a spine crawler or so, and he does have a macro hatch as opposed to a third base. Here we see his spire on the way. So, he played this out really interestingly. We'll see. Because I'm actually quite interested to see how he played this out in on everyone's vision. I kind of got a view of what he did earlier. What am I waiting for? Christ. Do I have orbital energy? Yeah, I do. Interesting. I definitely could have pushed up there. I forced a lot of units, but 2 spine crawlers out of position right now. He is moving up with the Zerglings just to try and buy time for these spines to finish, and he does do so. So with 2 Marauders and 8 Hellions, I decide, yeah, I think that was really, any further would be pushing my luck. I just want to try and deny this third for a little bit longer, and meanwhile I'm getting Raven. I have a Banshee out on the map. It's actually coming down to possibly limit some creep spread. 2 factories going down and an armory. I generally stagger the time of my armories with this build. If I open with like a 1 rack CC into double gas, I go for a dual armory at around 8 minutes or so. Just to start those double upgrades, it really, 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 really helps. And C+1 is nearly complete for him, as well as 8 mutas are on the way. Do I scan at any point, or no? So I really have no idea what he's doing. I get the feeling that he's going mutas, though, because he doesn't have a third out. Generally, if a Zerg is going to take a fast third, it means they have to defend it some way, and if they have a couple spine crawlers up, most likely you'll see a few roaches too. On a map like this, where you have really only 2 chokes into the main, into the base, and here it's like, oh my gosh. So, my Banshee immediately gets jibbed, and meanwhile 3 more mutas are on the field, so let's see. He's at 9 right now with 1 more on the way. 10 mutas can do a fair amount of damage, but I do have missile turrets going up everywhere, as well as 2 Thors in production. You always want to get your Thors first, because if you get tanks first, like, that's great and all, but I had map control for a bit with my Hellions, so I really didn't need to worry about getting hit with like a ridiculous roach timing, as it didn't really look like he had that many units. But if we take a look at the worker count now still, I've caught up for the most part at this point. My opponent's is still at 64. Obviously he doesn't want to drone too much higher, but here comes a 4th base. I was not sure about the timing of this 4th, and definitely put me a little bit behind. So, I mean, here comes my 3rd command center at 12 minutes. I definitely delayed that a little bit more than I should have. Especially on a map like this, when you're meching, you really want to get the access to this 5th and 6th refinery as soon as possible. And here come a couple Lings. Infestation Pit on the way too. He's getting Flyers attacks, which it looks like he's actually going to transition into relatively fast Broodlords, which I believe he does. So attack over carapace is kind of questionable, but it's still, Flyers attack is pretty common. There go my Hellions. Blue Flame isn't quite finished yet, so I just want to be cost effective with these and not really lose them. I lost 1, but we're pretty even on units lost at this point. I lost probably 8 Hellions or so. Meanwhile, I'm getting like to the oversaturated stage. 57 workers. 65 is around where you want to be as a Terran player. Oh, a little bit of miscontrol there by me. Did I manage to... Nope. Take a look at worker kills so far. 1 of my opponent to 0 of me, so I really haven't been as effective as I wanted to. I don't know my reasoning for delaying that push. I can't really tell you, but it definitely hurt me a little bit, considering my opponent was at 4 army supply to my 25. But Blue Flame is finished now, so I can really easily take this third base, especially with 2 siege tanks. I know that my opponent is pretty heavy on the link count. Pick off that Changeling because, let's be honest, I don't have any Marines on the field. Do I? Yeah, no. So my opponent's 5 is actually nearing completion. He's researching Neuroparasite 2. I believe this comes into play this match, and getting a bajillion spines. So I really like this. He's keeping his army count low. I mean, he really only has Mutas and a couple Infestors to his name, along with 5 Queens. But these Spine Crawlers will really delay enough push, and he has enough larvae to stockpile for, like, oh crap, I need to produce units now. Obviously, he's waiting for Brood Lords, so he's trying to get like the most efficient units for his first army as possible. But I still have like a massive army advantage at this point, and little do I know I can push at any time pretty much and straight up kill him. So here we go. I'm pushing out on the map now. Did I see the 4th base? Yeah. So I scanned, or I used Hellions or something, so I saw that 4th. You really don't want that to go up. Sieging out here is very, very strong for a Terran, position-wise, and I have enough Hellions that I can really buffer a lot of Zerglings, and I haven't seen any Roach Tech so far, so I think I'm in a pretty good spot to advance. Of course, he has a lot of Spines, so I can't really A-move in this, because Spines do a fair amount of damage. It's pretty scary. Just checking the fact that he doesn't have a 5th base up quite yet, and he does not, so... Currently we have 7 Corruptors on the way. Those will be transforming into Broods as soon as the Greater Spire is finished, as it is now. If we take a look at the worker count following that little... killed a couple workers down here, 66 to 69, so I'm in a very good spot. I have mules, of course, and I have another command center building them. As long as I can keep this army alive and try and pick off this 4th base, I'm in a good spot. Here come Mutalisks. These are kind of a last-ditch attempt to... No. Do I lose these? No. I start repairing the turret, but unfortunately my other turret dies. And my opponent has a lot of Infestors out at this point, and he has a fair amount for Neural Parasite as well. So ideally he's going to try and neural the Thors, but this is why Hellions are really important with a mech army. Hellions are just a mineral dump for mech. They do pretty well against Zerglings and drones, but overall... Oh, unfortunately that turret does actually die. I don't know why I'm auto-repairing that. It's just poor by me. I have a couple of Vikings queued over, I think, yeah, there. So because he has no units at this point, I can guess with reasonable certainty that he has going for Broodlords. So I swapped the reactor in pretty early, and now I just want to focus the as many broods down as I can with the Thors, because I know that they're going to die. It's just a matter of time. So I did pretty well in that engagement. I'm okay with how cost effective I was. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of workers in that. 13 workers killed, so that was around 12 with these mutas, which is way more than I should have lost. I do get these tanks out safely though. That's pretty big for me. You always want to retain your tank numbers, because reproducing Thors will just give you so much greater viability against Broodlords later on than will tanks. So you don't want to be spending your gas into making more after they die. My opponent pushes out here with the Broodlords, and he doesn't have any support with him. Let's see. Will he realize this? Yeah, we have a couple of Zerglings coming in. I'd imagine the Infestors are not far off. Here they go, chugga chugga chugga. And even more Spine Crawlers for him, and he has his 5th base. I really like the fact that he got this up while I was being attacked, so he never really lost that much mining time. But if we take a look at the income right now, I did kill a few drones of his, and I'm continuing in with Blue Flame Hellions. I think I ravaged like the drones of the 3rd somewhere at some point. If I missed that, guys, I'm quite sorry. Take a look now. Nope, still 13 to 11. Alright, so now I'm floating out my 4th base. Unfortunately, there is this creep dropping Overlord there. Makes me kind of sad, but what are you going to do? Meanwhile, I think not getting a double armory really hurt me in this match, and going forward, I am very hesitant to go without 2 armories. Because armor helps so much on Thors against Broodlords, and it allows you to get Viking weapons a bit earlier too. Usually I forgo +3 armor and just start getting +1 ship weapons, because that's around the time where your opponent's preload transition will be afoot. So at this point I'm just producing more Thors, more Hellions. I have a tank count. Like, this is, let's see, 7 tanks. That's very, very good number. 7 to 9 is kind of where you want to be against any sort of Broodlord comp, because you need to be able to pick off the Infestors, especially because he has Neural completed. So, let's see. Finally, I get to put my 4th base down, and I'm kind of expecting a push here anytime soon, because Azurg, you don't really want to let Terran take a 4th base on this map. Access to 8 geysers can really make for a very powerful army that it's hard to deal with regardless of how many bases you're on, especially when your opponent's going mech. And here comes Corvid Reactor. So I'm getting Raven energy at this point. I'd expect to see me throw down a couple more starports as I saturate these gases. And Harvester count, I'm still pretty high. I would actually have loved if he went for a few more drones. I think he's worried that I'm going to try and hit a timing and kill him right now, so he's trying to get as many army units out as possible. And if we take a look at the units tab, I mean, even army, I definitely have a vast lead, but he has so many spine crawlers that, again, it's kind of hard to engage that. So here come the Hellions again, getting a couple more kills, 7, so I guess that's why his drone count was a little low. I forgive him. It's actually quite fun to watch him play. I think, no, he didn't eliminate, but he took a game off of MVP, and I believe he eliminated MKP from a tournament, an online tournament too, so his EVT is definitely, I mean, this style works. This is like, this is kind of why the queen change was a big deal. You can get your creep spread up so fast, and as long as you tech up the broods, it's really, you have to be very, very careful on how you approach a late game Zerg army, because they can, if you miss micro a little bit, they can just absolutely take advantage of that. So here's my Planetary Fortress. I saw Gonzi actually do this in TVT the other day when he was playing mech, and it just made me so happy, because especially with building armor, as yeah, I already have building armor completed. This, being able to like sift your opponents through, or filter your opponents through another little location is always great. Ideally, I would have 2 tanks up on that wall so I could lift this when the Planetary Fortress falls, but hey, we're not all perfect. Meanwhile, I have Seeker Missile on the way, as well as ship weapons +1. And my opponent, after a wave of drones, is up to 62. So he's definitely trying to get that like ideal composition, and actually relatively heavy supply too. So at this point, he's really gonna start making a bank, because I mean, this is so many Corruptors and so many Broodlords, and he's almost at +3 attack, so he's gonna absolutely obliterate any Vikings that I have. So I really can't engage him in a straight up fight, despite the fact that I have a fair amount of Vikings myself. If we take a look at the, so 19 Corruptors to 17 Vikings, but he has +3 and I only have +1. How am I going to deal with this? More tech labs on my starports, more Ravens. Yeah. Meanwhile, my Hellions are just trying to do a little bit more damage, but he has enough spines at this point that, and he's even, I didn't notice that he was defending these with Broodlords too. I really like that. And here comes Flyer Carapace level 2. Is he double spire right now? I don't think he is. No. So here come even more broods. He's just trying to hit a timing that I can't hold. And I think that his scouting, his lack of scouting, like really, really hurt him. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, I'm getting durable materials. This will just extend the duration of Seeker Missiles. Is it Seeker Missiles? Let's see. Need to go to the tech lab that's researching that. I just know that I get all 3. Yeah. Extends the duration of Seeker Missiles. You need this. So need this. The energy upgrade is, of course, your first priority, but going into other upgrades, durable materials really helps. And so does actually, for auto turrets, building armor affects them. Take a look at the units tab right now, and the army supply. You don't really want to be even in army supply with the Zerg, because his drone count is so low. His army is ridiculously scary, and we see him moving out right now. He has, let's see, he's probably going to hit with 2-3 +3 on Corruptors is ridiculous. But I have a lot of energy in my Ravens, and I'm actually moving out at this point. I don't know what prompted this. I guess it was kind of, I was maxed with enough that I could justify pushing out, and I scan really well. So this is a pretty huge scan for me. My tanks are managed to siege up, and here come the Seeker missiles. Yeah. I'll go ahead and watch that back in slow motion after this, but I kill all of the Corruptors. He has 0. He has 1 Corruptor left on the field. Spawning a couple of Infested Terran there. I still have the Viking count up though, so I can pick off immediately all of these Broodlords. The couple point defense drones I dropped were really kind of a buffer in case I managed to neglect any of the Corruptors, because you really don't want to be wasting a lot of Viking volleys trying to pick off a bajillion Corruptors when you have Broodlords out in the field. They're obviously your first priority. So here I'm going to go ahead and try and take a 5th base. My mineral count is so high at this point because like I really have not that much gas. When you're getting Ravens and going mech, Thors cost a bajillion too, so you're kind of stuck. Luckily, he really doesn't have... Actually, he has a fair amount of gas at this point, and he does have an Ultralisk Scabbard on the way too, so... Let's see, here comes the Ling Remax. I think that if he had went Roaches with this Remax, he actually would have... Although, does he even have a... I don't think he has a Roach Warren, and I know he doesn't have missile attacks. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore what I just said. Fortunately for me, I'm able to get a couple SCVs to surround this, and with the landing the Vikings, they actually do pretty good DPS against the Zerglings. So I'm in a pretty good spot at this point. My opponent just went for kind of like a last-ditch, hey, I'm going to try and stop you. And he sees the Planetary Fortress this here too. This is really bad to scout for a Zerg, because now he's on 6 base to my 5 base. I'd love it if he actually continued his creep spread and moved the spine wall up, like to right here. Because even though I could siege it, those would be siege tanks that aren't shelling his army and his infestors. I have a couple Hellions here too. It's really important that you don't... Like, 3/3 Zerglings can absolutely destroy a Planetary Fortress, 100%, if you don't get an SCV surround in time. So that's... The Hellions are kind of just there to buffer. At this point, I'm just waiting until I max again, so that I can engage when I know I'm at my strongest. I'm just banking on the fact that he can't get that amazing composition up again. So I kill even more drones at that point, and now I'm up to 34 Workers Guild. So that's pretty good. Managed to kill the Spine Crawlers, and yeah, so there, he just leaves. I actually, let's see. His bank is pretty low, and 8 Ultralisks on the field right now against 5 Thors, 3 tanks, and 11 Vikings. But auto turrets absolutely destroy Thors. It screws up the AI so much. And I also have PDDs for any of the Corruptors and Broodlords. Seeker Missile is actually really good on Roaches too. If your opponent goes for Mass Roach and you have the gas to do it, it's a very, very good transition. So, if we take a look at the resources lost, this was just really cost efficient by me. Him losing that entire engagement, all of those Broodlords, that was kind of like a one and done. It's kind of a Terran's approach to the game. Like, I'm going to build this huge maxed army, and you're not going to be able to defeat it. And if you manage to defeat it, I really can't reproduce it in time. So, I hope that was a little bit of a how-to on, like, Raven's late game. It's really, as long as you get your siege tank count up and can secure a 4th base on a map like this, you just use that to try and get your ideal composition. And eventually, maybe even take a 5th base. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed. After this, I will probably have... Let's see. There were a couple of really good games that I've casted for the Zotac Cups recently, so I might go ahead and sift through those and see if I can find a couple that would be enjoyable. Feel free to let me know in the comment section like what matches you guys want to see, ZBZ, ZBP, ZBT, stuff like that. I know a lot of people are struggling in ZBT right now, and I really think that this is a viable composition and eventually where this matchup is going to go, even with a couple battle cruisers. And actually, if Take releases the replays from Home Story Cup qualifiers, I'm going to cast Gumiho versus Oz because that game was absolutely astoundingly amazing. So I really, if you guys managed to see it, like, I'm sure you know, but if you didn't, hope you have that to look forward to. Alright guys, peace.